welcome back to Wicked Spine. To another interview with Bjørn Ekeberg. Ekeberg, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Great. Let's talk about red light therapy. It's been in the news a lot recently. And we want to talk about, is it a true therapy? And are there certain types of red light therapy that actually work better, or are there different spectrums of light that can help you more? By understanding this, you understand it's going to help you with your concerns, your medical conditions, maybe short-term or long-term, so you have a full-length recovery. So to start, red light therapy has become a trusted treatment to improve and maintain good health. A type of red light therapy can be more effective than others. Today's talk with Bjørn Ekeberg helps us understand the source of red light therapy, specific health benefits, and the difference of FlexBeam to other red light therapy devices. So you've had a long day today. You're energized by your work, for one, too. You're in Western Europe, you said?
Yeah, that's right. We're based in Norway.
Norway, fantastic. So why did you get into this? Why did you get into this? Give me a quick background with what made you interested in this.
Yeah, I thought I was going in a very different direction. My background is in philosophy of science. I've written a book on the basis of physics and cosmology, is really a critical history of the Big Bang Theory, which I have it came out, basically was published. It was through a lot of work on research and personal interest in this field from a philosophy point of view. When I met three people who were to be my co-founders, who had stumbled across a technology. Actually research was the starting point, and which has also piqued my interest. Was PubMed and NASA studies showing the impact on physiology from exposure to near-infrared light. And I'd never heard anything about this kind of thing before. And I was kind of fascinated. But one of the co-founders is also a medical doctor who's worked with this technology for decades, because it's not new. It is just now that it's becoming commercialized. Right. So with that and the possibility of creating our own device using our own principles for what we thought would be most effective, I decided to join that venture 6 years ago. And currently, we have about 30,000 users of our device FlexBeam, which is the sort of only powerful wearable in the space. But there are many other devices and many other kinds of approaches to red light therapy, which I'm sure we want to talk about a little bit.
That's the thing we talked about. People want to live longer, live healthier, recover from injuries faster, especially for an athlete or maybe a weekend warrior for one also. And take a step back to discuss what is actually red light therapy, where does it come from, and how does it work compared to infrared?
So think of the sun as the source of energy for everything, and it's a complete spectrum. So if you were to draw out the sun's electromagnetic energy on a spectrum, it's really, really wide. And there's a tiny window in the middle that we call visible light. This is blue, green, and red.
Got it. Okay.
There's on one side of that spectrum is wavelengths like ultraviolet, which are that you've heard about, that are invisible, but they are part of the sun's exposure that can have harmful effects, but is also what causes tanning, for example. So there's on one side of the spectrum, there's that sort of ultraviolet. There's shorter and shorter and shorter wavelengths that you cannot see. And then on the other side of visible light, bridging from red light, starts a range of energy called infrared. And infrared is longer wavelengths, and so infrared is longer than your eyes can see, therefore it's invisible, but it just bridges into it. So imagine a sunset or a sunrise. When you watch that glow, you see that nice glowing red. That's when a lot of the sun's energy is, because the sun is so low, it's a lot of the energy proportionally is tilted into the infrared range.
Got it.
And you see the nice red, but the glow you feel on your face, that skin, that warming glow on your skin, that is infrared. Infrared is linked to heat. And then the infrared is quite a long range, which you can go into far infrared. This is now commonly used in saunas, for example.
Okay.
And so there's a whole range of wavelengths in the infrared spectrum. And roughly speaking, just over 50% of the sun's energy that we receive is in the infrared range. So there's quite a lot underneath it. Now, near infrared is a very specific bandwidth, very close to red light, which is shown to be able to penetrate the body. It has to do with the length of the wavelength itself,
Okay.
So it has a very different kind of effect from far infrared, for example. So near infrared is able to penetrate the skin, and if you have the right power output and the right sort of dosage and the right wavelengths, you can get quite deep underneath the skin and into muscles and tissue. With our device, we're estimating around 3 inches into the body. So that means that you can stimulate deep below the skin. And what happens to the cells when they are exposed to this light? This is the real crux and the discovery that we found in the literature, and that's really the driver of a lot of the most promising red light therapy treatments, is that near infrared light, when your cells are exposed to it, the mitochondria in your cells, which are the organelles in your cells that are responsible for energy production, largely speaking, they will start to produce more energy. So they will produce more what's called ATP. And the net effect of that stimulus is that your cells become much more efficient at doing what they're supposed to be doing. And your cells, generally speaking, are tasked with repairing and healing and recovering, like nonstop. That's what your body is doing. You could think of your body as a repairing machine, and the sun as really the source of energy for a lot of these processes. So when we talk about red light therapy in the context of this kind of wavelengths of light, it is something that's already in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
It's all natural energy. But what we have done is to concentrate those wavelengths that are really stimulating the cells into a concentrated dose.
It's amazing where nature provides these things. You found a way to harness it efficiently and narrow it down to that near infrared, which we call red light therapy. Is that red light therapy is something different?
Yeah. So should we get into the confusing part, or is it clear enough about near infrared?
Because of my medical background, going mitochondria, ATP energy, it's like it all comes back to me what I've learned and what I've studied. So it's almost like I like that material, phenomenal. Let's go through that for about maybe 5 minutes or so we don't lose too many people. So people that are interested in the science, so people, my patients, my audience, I want them to understand where things come from. And they may not have to know that, but by knowing that, then they can repeat that to someone else who may not know. So giving us a 5-minute discussion of where that goes down to, which is phenomenal for me, would interest me and also, again, my audience.
For sure. And it is really crucial because right now there is an explosion of awareness and also I would say hype around red light therapy. There's a lot of confusion around red light therapy. It's like used everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think I've never met so many people, especially in the US now, that have heard of it. There's still many people who have not tried it, but now almost it seems like everybody has heard of it. However, red light therapy is a more recent term. If you put the sort of the nerdier research glasses on, you look in the literature, it's mostly referred to as photobiomodulation as a technical term. That means how you can change your physiology from light. And that is a very broad term. It covers, there are many different wavelengths that affect the body in different ways. Mm-hmm. Now, red light therapy, or red light and near infrared, have emerged as the most sort of potent candidates for this, that clearly the research shows that something happens. And red light, visible red light, affects the skin. It has a very positive influence on collagen and elastin production in the skin. So if you have the right dosage, the right kind of device, you can stimulate healing at the skin surface level. This is why it's become a huge thing in cosmetics, for example. Mm-hmm. And here comes the confusion. Right? Because we use red light therapy generally, like a lot of red light therapy devices, including ours and like a professional panel, for example, like a full body panel, will use both red and near infrared light. But because it's very clumsy to say red and near infrared light therapy, it's just become shortened to red light therapy. So the first thing to sort of check when you hear about red light therapy is, are we talking about just red light and cosmetics? Because that's its own set of devices, its own set of applications. For our device, and I think what interests your audience, especially if you're working with musculoskeletal issue of any kind, then near infrared is really the most powerful bandwidth. Like red is favorable and it's positive. It works in combination with near infrared, but red is only skin deep. It goes like a couple of millimeters below the skin surface. But with near infrared, you can really penetrate, and you can get into tissue, you can get into bones, you can get into joints if you have the right setup. So I think that's the most crucial distinction, really.
Yeah. Infrared and near it's not good marketing. Doesn't flow off your tongue as much.
No.
Yes,
and neither does photobiomodulation, to be honest. So
yeah, anything more than 3 syllables, us Americans, we get lost. We're like, what? What was that?
Yeah, I mean, we often talk about near infrared separately, sometimes to emphasize that element, because it is the power of like the device that we've created and what we think are the best devices, generally speaking, out there that people should consider buying for anything musculoskeletal. The near infrared is the crucial part. But of course, red light therapy as a term is driving the whole conversation.
It's almost when someone understands, I think, the underneath, it's very simple to understand. It gives them more credence and more credibility that they're doing the right thing for their body.
Right.
It's not just something they bought on an infomercial overnight when they couldn't sleep and got it 30 days later. So it gives it more, I think, more medical credibility to, at some point, hopefully, insurances will cover that portion, not just a cash base for some people, but seeing it as actually a true therapy.
Yep, that's right. And that's why we also try to emphasize that element and the research backing of this, because there is, to be fair, there is a lot of sort of junk devices out there and a lot of questionable marketing tactics for cheap devices with almost no power that cannot possibly do what they say they do. And unfortunately, the side effect of that is it just confuses people even more. Like cheap Amazon products that are said like they claim to be doing all the things that a professional device can do, and then they can't. And then a lot of people are like, well, red light, I tried it, it doesn't work, right? Or if you're confused about red and near infrared, if you have a face mask with red light and you try to heal your knee with it or something, and it's like, it didn't work. But it's like, no, you can't do that, right?
It's it dilutes the market. So now people are turned off, like you'd mentioned, turned off by it. They go, well, it doesn't work for me. Do you have the right one? No. Right. Okay, here's what near red light therapy actually does. It goes more than skin deep, more to your bones and joints, and affects your, again, when someone says mitochondria, increase energy, and increase your recovery period, they go, oh, that makes more sense. Where do I get that from?
Right.
No, more specific. And talk about the physiological changes you've seen with people that use your device, the FlexBeam, and how that works.
Well, it's a very broad range of applications, and it's one of the constraints we find in marketing here from the start, is because when you start listing all the potential benefits, it just sounds implausible and it sounds like too much, right? Generally speaking, if we start from the principle that it works on anything musculoskeletal, right, it will have a potential impact because it can go underneath the skin. Then the most documented uses since the 90s in the literature is reduction of inflammation.
Got it.
And then along with that, reduction of pain. This is often the reason why people would consider buying one to try, is because they have an ache or pain or some area or some part of their body that is just struggling to heal and it's associated with pain. That is, again, if you have the right device, it's very well demonstrated that it works, both pain reduction and so on. Then adjacent to that, it's really faster recovery from any muscular condition. This is why a lot of our users are either athletes or active recreationists, like they are in need of something to recover faster from whether it's an injury or whether it's just like, sore muscles or like a strain or anything like this. And there we're seeing like physiotherapists we work with and use cases and also benchmarks in the literature suggests you can get up to 30-40% faster repair from a muscular, for example, a pulled muscle. It will heal sort of in a third of the third faster, right? It's like that kind of significance that you see. So this is why also we have a lot of top athletes on our sort of team as ambassadors and so on, but it's really for everyone. Because a top athlete would embrace this if it gave them 1% margin, but here you're talking 30 to 40% in some cases.
We talk about weekend warriors, especially people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who were athletes in high school, college, Now they
Yeah.
still want to be active, play weekend softball, baseball, basketball, whatever, even golfing, and they end up hurting themselves. Or in your sense too, is almost, how do I have something in my back pocket to help me recover so I can go to work on Monday, and do
Yeah.
my normal day and not feel like I'm old
Yep.
because my body's injured.
And I think a lot of people have this, and also the older we get, the more aches we tend to get, or some sort of spot that you want to give some extra love to, and this is when this sort of comes in. That's one particular use case. That's the most common application of FlexBeam, for example. It's for muscle repair.
Good.
And associate along with that then to reduce pain and inflammation, which is also part of the healing process. There is also in parallel, I would say, a very widening sort of audience and use cases for what we broadly call health optimization, or some cases biohacking, which is less about a muscle repair issue and more about improving core functions of your body, like energy boost to the gut, for example. The gut-brain axis can be very favorably influenced with targeted near-infrared light, because the light will penetrate into the gut and the associated organs. And there are really good studies to show how it affects positively the microbiome in your gut. It can also be used over the lungs to improve respiratory conditions. And there's some really eye-opening studies done at full scale, peer-reviewed studies of professional athletes using this to improve their VO2 max, which is a biomarker for your respiratory capacity, and is a rough indication of your mitochondrial health overall. If you have a higher VO2 max, you're generally thought to have more mitochondrial mass. That means more mitochondria, which then it basically improves your resilience longer term. Right. So in the sort of growing health field, longevity biohacking, red light therapy with specific focus on near infrared is really being taken up by a lot of people as a kind of daily practice to just improve and boost your health overall.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Is there any, research for or against using someone who has cancer to help their recovery, or just something to where it's causing too much recovery, it's causing too much cell reproduction?
There are some promising studies on early stages of cancer. We still haven't seen a lot of studies on it. There is nothing to suggest that it's harmful at early stages, or actually that it has a significant effect. It's just some promising early results. For any late stage cancer, the general advice is that we cannot recommend it, because you cannot do research on it, and it's just sort of talk to your doctor. So there are these borderline cases. A very different one, but in the same bracket, is pregnancy, for example.
Okay.
Right. So, and there is a dearth of research, right? There's basically, we're lacking clear enough data to show that it's absolutely safe. There is no data to show that it's unsafe, but we just don't know. So therefore, there's some caution around those particular conditions.
But if someone has, for example, say cancer in their leg, or they're pregnant on their abdominal area, they could probably still use the FlexBeam on their shoulder or their knee or their ankle, correct?
Yeah, and this is what we have a medical doctor as part of our founding team, right, who has developed over 150 protocols for specific conditions and offers guidance and like a membership program that we have. So the knowledge around this is very important to use it the right way, and we generally recommend to be sort of cautious around those borderline cases that you suggest, but otherwise it's a very, very safe technology. It has been very thoroughly studied, and there are some more, say, experimental studies that are coming out now that are like, some people are very excited about the potential for testosterone, for eyesight, for all kinds of things. This is all very exciting, but it's all very early, and we're just generally advising caution on these sort of like to be explored kind of conditions.
It's almost like you're taking a medical approach to, I want to call it, in some people's sense, double-blind studies, we want to have the research before we actually use it for these benefits versus, like you said, some companies that just put products out there, they're willing to say it works for this, it can get you pregnant, it can make you lift
Yeah.
500 pounds, it can do this, because they have no reputation behind them. They may close their doors tomorrow if someone calls them on it.
Yeah, and that's one of the principles that we started with, is that we want to be able to provide as good science and backing as possible, and then advise caution where we don't have enough data. That said, this is like also like health is an experimental field, and a lot of people out there that try things on themselves, and they're all indications around this technology that it is generally safe. It's very hard to harm yourself. It's only very, very specific extreme conditions. So to return to your question about a pregnant woman, for example, we caution around anywhere around the belly area or the back, because it might induce labor or it might have any of these kind of effects. But using it on a knee or like far away from the site is generally what she would recommend. Is like, that is not a problem. So they're trying to use some sort of common sense in it. In it too.
But it's knowing physiology, how the body works, just how the body works. At that point, you can go, okay, if it's away from the source of you're worried about, at that point, because it's a local therapy, it's not going to affect those areas. So let's talk about too, Lauren, how does FlexBeam work differently? I mean, show the product too, please. People are interested.
Yeah, sure.
What's going
on? This here, and for anyone just listening and not on video, it's a belt-like shape. Someone might call it, almost looks like an ammo belt. It has 4 pods. And 3 of them are light pods with red and near infrared light. I can turn it on and I can choose between 3 different settings. And the settings really have to do with red versus near infrared, how much red or near infrared you have. So we have one setting that is primarily red, so it's really good for skin conditions. And then a setting 2 that is equal amounts of both, which is more standard you find in the panel, for example, like similar kind of wavelengths and power. And we have a 3rd setting, which is our sort of killer go deep setting, which is the most powerful near infrared.
Got it. Okay.
And that will give the deepest penetration. So for example, for wanting to treat the spine, like you are most likely going to use setting 3. And this device, like we started out with the principle that the most effective treatment is one that you can, like, that it can penetrate the deepest. So it has to do with power output, and that you put it straight on the skin. Like for any kind of panel or stationary device, you have to be away from the light, and it even advises you to not go near, because the light is so hot, and there's also a lot of EMF radiation and stuff. So we encase this whole thing so you can put it straight on the skin.
Oh, got it.
Where the penetration is. And this is it's a really important point that I cannot overemphasize enough, because I see these things like red light bulbs being installed in rooms, or like near infrared bulbs that are supposed to be like in gyms or in saunas and stuff, that are supposed to be giving you the same kinds of things. And if you look at it from a pure physics perspective and you try to calculate the power output and how it reaches your skin and its ability to penetrate, it is very, very unlikely that a bulb is going to work for you unless it's very close up, because something like 80% of the energy is already lost when you're 3 inches away from your skin. So
it almost diffuses away from it. It's you lose concentration, I would say, exponential as you go away distance-wise from your skin, correct?
It dissipates super quickly. So it can have a very nice sort of glow effect. I think actually a lot of these kinds of devices at a distance, if you have, for example, a large full body panel and you're far, like you're situated away from it the way they recommend, it is going to have a nice effect on your skin. But how much of it is actually going to penetrate the skin? That is the question, right? And any cheap device that has like just light diodes, but it doesn't have fans, it doesn't have any way to cool it down, that's already an indication it doesn't have enough power. So I've seen, for example, in the athletic space, someone has like done these like compression boots, and they're like lining it with little diodes around. So now it has a red light therapy in the boot. We looked at the tech specs of these kinds of inventions, and they're easy to make, right? But the diodes have almost no output. So this thing will, like, it sounds like you get red light, or you think you get red light therapy, but you're penetrating like just barely below the skin. So that's
There's a psychological effect. I think you see the red light, you're like, it's working. Good. I'm going to be 100% no. And how much energy output is actually in those devices, your FlexBeam, and what's the energy output on that?
Yeah, so it's usually energy density is usually measured by something called irradiance, which is milliwatts per square centimeter. So it's about how much density of energy do you get in one ratio. A lot of devices without fans, to put it this way, at the lower end of the range will have maybe 10 to 15 milliwatts per square centimeters. Okay. We believe the right dose from the literature suggests 100 plus. 100 to 200 milliwatts per square centimeter. That's the range you want to be at. There is an argument to be made for like time exposure, so that you can, with a very weak device, you can, in theory, you can get the right dosage if you just wear it for hours and like a really long time. We've also tried with this, like we generally see better results when it's a more concentrated time. So with FlexBeam, it's a 10-minute session. Like it turns itself off at 10 minutes. You can do another one for 20 minutes, but that's typically what we recommend starting with. It doesn't make any, because it's quite concentrated, and you get a more, like by getting a more powerful dose, you're also getting a physiological response that is stronger.
And what is you said mentioned yours is 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. What is the average, device out there that are trying to sell in the market that doesn't really work? What's the average for them?
I mean, I'd say anything below 30 to 50 milliwatts per square centimeter is not going to have enough density to really be able to penetrate in any significant way. That pretty much rules out any device out there that doesn't have a fan.
Okay.
And there are some professional, like high-end panels that have really, really strong power output. There, the difficulty of calculation is how far you are away from it.
Exactly.
Right. So there are certain calculations they use of what you hit the skin if you are consistently away at this range. So it depends a bit on how you calculate it, but they can be I've seen the best panels are in the 200 to 300 milliwatt energy density, and they're wider, but you're also very far away from them. And your nose tip will be closer to it than the back of your neck, so to speak. Like this is just a practical challenge.
Sure.
So one of the two principles that we had when we wanted to design our own device was, one, effectiveness, that you straight on the skin, more effective, like you get deeper treatment.
Sure.
And the second is usability, because the red light therapy device that is going to give you the best result is the one that you use the most. That is to use the most frequently and consistently. Okay. And we see often in users who have, let's say, a large stationary device, like this is very common, like people read up on the technology and they get excited and they have a few $1,000s they want to spend, and they build their basement out into, a great like red light therapy hall, etc. And you can do that, and like some of these panels are really great like output. The question is, are you going to be consistently using it, or is after a week of that honeymoon period you tried it and you don't really get a routine going, you don't do it every day, are you going to get results over time? You have to keep using it, right, in order to see consistent results. So that's why we wanted to design something that's portable, it's rechargeable, you can just stick it in your bag, take it with you. So we have users, and I say especially in the US, people really appreciate the multitasking. You can use it while you're driving, or you're cooking dinner for the kids and you can strap it on your back and you can still get a 10-minute session on your back, etc. So usability.
And how often do you recommend using it overall? Is it twice a day, 3 times a day?
It depends a little bit on what you're treating. And we do have guidelines for most kinds of conditions for this, but the typical use case is like when you start, once a day, 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. And that's the multi-site kind of thing that you're having to use both for the shoulder and for the hip and along the spine, like a deeper treatment. You can go a little bit longer. But usually, unless it's a specific protocol that suggests otherwise, once a day, use it daily, 4 to 5 days. Take a break for a day or two, helps the body kind of reset a little bit and to not adapt too quickly, and then keep using it. So for Like we see results for chronic things over weeks, for acute things within days.
Wow.
But again, consistency is key, and you build it up over time.
And do you recommend starting them at the near mode, or do you recommend doing the more of the combination 50-50?
Again, depends on what you are, what condition. Like, tell me, like, for example, what's a typical
For
use case
example,
in
a
practice?
lower back spinal disc injury.
Right. Setting 2 or 3, you could maybe start with 2 because it's equal amounts red and near infrared,
Okay.
and then go up to setting 3, which goes even deeper. I think anything related to like where you want to go in, like and get into the bone or to the spine, any kind of way, setting 3 is usually the
Okay.
preferred setting.
Yeah, especially like you said, more the bone level forms, especially being the lower back where it's a deeper area, 7 layers of back muscles. Do
Yeah.
those first to get to the bone. I'd almost want to start at near, and
Yeah.
then maybe do a second session. It depends how acute they are. In my head, maybe do a second session of 50-50, maybe once a day also, just to calm the pain down, like you had mentioned, to get some
Yeah.
of the muscle tissue to release that pressure.
That's about right, I think. And
Yeah.
I think if the situation is somewhat acute and accompanied with pain, then you can use it a bit more to start,
Mhm.
right? If it's more to deal with something that it's been persistent, ongoing, or chronic, you'd have to expect there to be multiple sessions, and it could take a while before you see significant results. But in virtually all the cases we work with and that our doctor works with on this, like over time, virtually everyone gets results from musculoskeletal types of conditions.
That's
It's
awesome.
just a question of time and like sort of dosing and finding your right level. And if you're consistent with it, you will see results.
And like you mentioned too, if it's acute injury, never had it before, or it has been over time, or now it's a chronic injury where there's scar tissue to break up, there's other conditions going on, arthritis maybe,
Yep.
bone spurs. So you almost look at the big picture. But again, the result is there if you do the right frequency, the right
Yep.
time of use, and also again the right rehab too, which would be good.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Good.
So it's like for a lot of users, and I get these questions who want to, like, there are many use areas, right? So
Yes.
you could also use it for gut health, and there's also some sleep supporting protocols, and there's all these kinds of things. So I say sometimes the biggest challenge you have when you get started with this device is what should I treat first, because you don't want to overdo it at once. So you can't do it all at once.
And talk about sleep. How do it help someone sleep? Sleep improvement.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. The main pathway here is that there's a link between red light and melatonin production,
Good. Okay.
and generally speaking, your circadian rhythm, which is key to balancing all your hormones, is regulated by the sun and sun exposure. And exposing yourself to red light early in the day and closer to bedtime can really help set your circadian rhythm.
Got it.
So we have the sleep protocol that is most popular and that we see results. People send us back their Oura Ring kind of results and like showing with data on themselves over time. It is a combination of using it one time in the early part of the day to sort of get your little dose of sunshine even when it's cloudy, to signal
Perfect.
to the body, and then closer to sleep. And there's 2 or 3 suggested placements that people varies a bit what people prefer, if they're side sleepers or so on. But you can use it either over your chest or over your shoulder for 10 minutes close to bedtime. Then for a lot of people, this induces deep sleep to begin with. So we had
Wow.
some really amazing results early where people had deep sleep improvements, likely because it caused a kind of a very light stress response in the body that turned the body into, I need to recover from this, right? So it went into deeper sleep. So we do have some sleep support protocols that are very popular. And of course, sleep is integral to recovery overall and in the big picture.
Will help someone psychologically too if they're not rested. They have the energy to actually get things they want to do more things for their body. Going to it too, especially in the U.S. Also, I'm assuming if someone presents this to their medical doctor, what kind of resistance or feedback have you had from medical doctors in the U.S.?
It's very mixed picture between those who are progressive and understand that there is a lot of new science emerging and use cases and so on. are very positive, and we try to work with them, like people, as much as possible. I would say within the physiotherapy, chiropractor, osteopath, anyone functional medicine, anyone who's actually applying treatment to the body. Overwhelmingly, we see over time, even with the skeptical glasses that come on first, eventually, like they all embrace it when they use it because they see the results in practice, and it's very hands-on, right?
Good.
There is much more resistance in the classically trained medical doctor that is mostly trained in pharmaceutical treatment. And I think it's a longer way to go. I think there are some big shifts underway, but it's a whole different way of looking at the body, right? Than what you're trained as a medical doctor, because this is about energy. It's really a bioenergetic paradigm and not a biochemical paradigm, which is sort of what the medical model is about. So there is more resistance in the medical establishment. I think that will take longer, but I think the results will speak for themselves, and anyone like actually practicing it. I mean, in the sports world, sports medicine has embraced it already, right? Because they are much more hands-on, so they see it.
Well, they want to see results in the sport world. Okay, can I improve my athleticism? Can I avoid injury? Can I score the points to win the game for my team and get my better contract next year? Make 10 million instead of 15 million, I guess. I'm not sure what they do. But with medicine too, have you seen people reduce their medications or be honest about that to either your company or to the public or to the medical doctors also?
Yeah, there's a lot of our testimonials and feedback from users. It's a section of our users that we like that aren't necessarily in sports or in biohacking, but what we generally call alternative health, as in they're very open to trying other things, and they report back that they reduce need for painkillers and these kinds of medications as well. This will, of course, vary individually, and consult with your doctor if you have a complex medical condition, and it's not a replacement. And I'm not advocating that you can necessarily ditch all your pills if you go on red light therapy. But there's really compelling evidence on inflammation reduction and pain reduction overall. I mean, FDA has classified this medical class 2A. So you can, with the certification that we have, you can generally state that this alleviates pain and inflammation in people. And I think more importantly, if you're dealing with pain, generally speaking, you don't want to be just going after the symptom. Painkillers are symptom killers. This actually helps with the root cause, so to speak. And often the root causes are much deeper, right? And that's what light therapy, like really good light therapy, can be a game changer for a lot of people.
When I think a lot of people, when they go back to their doctor, hey, look, I'm feeling great. I'm going to go off some of my meds, see how I do. It's at least in the US, it's always the patient's choice. This is not North Korea or Russia. You can do whatever you want to do, but you also take the advice. Okay, this is what I recommend. At that point, use your own common sense. Yeah, I think a lot of people do that now, but they've done something. What people do is they've done something to improve their lifestyle using FlexBeam, doing better things for their own health for one too. Now they can go, I've done more blood work, for example, and it shows I have less inflammation. I'm not diabetic anymore. I can sleep better. I want to go off my medication. Then they can show the doctor, hey, this is what the results are. The doctor can go, okay, it is working. What are you actually doing? If a doctor said is more progressive, to actually help people, not just put them on more meds.
Yeah, and I think for any, let's generally call this like a more complex medical condition, as in you already are seeking a doctor for it, and you have maybe like multiple pharmaceutical solutions and prescriptions for it. There's a lot to be said for creating a virtuous cycle with your whole health, and why like red light therapy is not necessarily the one thing that you just, I just use this 10 minutes a day and therefore I can ditch everything. It is almost like a lever, or like something that you can use that gives you that much more energy, that you can then be regaining a little bit more mobility, which means you get better circulation, and then you sleep even a bit better, and then you recover a bit more, and you do more red light therapy, and so on. So that over time, you are just getting, like, it's helping you to set a cascading effects for your health, rather than to rely on just pills every day.
And how much do you see where someone may say, hey, look, it's not working for me. I'm going to turn the device that's working, where they go, how often did you actually use it? what else have you done? How are you actually using the device? I see a lot of people will buy something and put it in their closet and never really use it. Or like you'd mentioned, it becomes more of a honeymoon phase. They go, I didn't see results the first 2 days, so now I'm just going to throw it away.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen often for us. Thankfully, we
Yeah.
extended to 60-day money-back guarantee.
Okay.
And when people come back to us and say they don't get results, we do ask them questions about how they used it and put them in contact with also our clinical team, just to ensure that they actually have used it properly. Because from
Good.
our own experience now with reaching 30,000 users, like, people do get results if they use it correctly. That said, there's no questions asked if somebody wants their money back and it's not working for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but of course, and we're very confident we can do that because we have a lot of user data now and we can see that it is working.
And it's sometimes people won't be honest with you, just being human nature, that they did that. I use it every day. I'm like, I use it like once a week, so it's almost like, please give me the machine back, because you're not going to be a good testimonial. You're not good feedback. So you can get someone else who actually wants to use it and get better.
Yeah. No,
That'd be my
please. Different. I mean, compliance, which is a technical term, it is a big issue. Like for any kind of device and technology, really, it's like from the quick adoption and I want to try it, to creating consistent routines. And again, that's why we wanted to design something that's so easy that you cannot sort of say to yourself that, I don't have time. I don't have time to do red light therapy today. Right.
Yeah. Then good luck with your life, my friend.
Yeah.
And you mentioned too, there's support through the medical doctor you work with, or support like in a Facebook group, or how do you support your purchasers of FlexBeam?
Like, we have a membership program now that is for now it's a web-based community that is free for anyone to join when they buy a FlexBeam. There's also some protocols and additional things, services and guides you can also buy on top of that if you really want to go deep into the space. But all the basic starting points is there. So it contains a forum, a chance to engage with our medical doctor, Dr. Zulia Frost, who also has a host of webinars on specific topics, from, for example, melatonin production to women's health to like all kinds of things related to healing. We are just about to launch an app that makes it easier for people just to get their exact guidelines on the phone, so they don't have to look it up online. And this is something we're actively looking to improve. For us, when we created this and why I decided to join it and sort of jump ship on already a career that was going in it could have gone a completely different route. It's because I really believe in this technology, broadly speaking, that it has the potential, but that it's with scientific principles and clinical understanding that you can really, really get results. And this is something that should be available for everyone. That is not done overnight. It's a long journey, but that's the road we're on.
Well, especially in the U.S., it's very hard to break into that field, especially if you want it research-based and research-backed, has to be approved, blah, blah, blah. There's all the red tape for one, too. But you're doing, I think, the hard work to make the long-term benefit of this product, and obviously many more to follow, to become part of someone's overall healthcare and be backed by medicine and by science as a natural way to help heal the body in all parts of the body.
Yeah, and that's our goal. Like, we're seeing more and more interest in this, and more rising awareness, and there's curiosity. So I'm hopeful that some of the confusion around it will also sort of clear up, and those devices that actually work and that are clearly supported will actually win out over time, and that people won't be sort of there won't be too much of a backlash from somebody having tried a face mask on their lower back.
My glute is still sore. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see more of an acceptance in Europe or other countries for your device than the US, or is it vice versa, or just even?
I would say it's the skepticism is higher in Europe to begin with, but once you have established like both people with credentials and research and everything around it is moving, I just think the US is further ahead consumer-wise on this, that there's more people who know about it in the US. There's many more devices on the market and kinds of marketing tactics in all channels to try to promote it. I see it's becoming embedded into wellness centers and clinics and gyms, and there's a lot of this stuff. There's let's say we haven't come as far in Europe yet, but it's the same wave.
Well, I think a lot of people in the U.S. are kind of frustrated with the medical system as it is. They're paying a lot of money for their copay. They get to see their doctor every 3 or 4 months. They can't see them before then, and all of a sudden the doctor goes, "Well, I can't help you. Here's some more meds." And they're not ibuprofen deficient. They're not Tylenol deficient. They know that they want to do something smarter, so they'd rather pay out of pocket to get better health care because their quality of life is so important to them.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely see the challenges with the healthcare system in the U.S. has definitely opened a wide open door to other alternative modes of healing. And a lot of those will maybe not be working and not worth the hype, but there are some that really work, right? And there's some that it really deserves more attention.
Good.
That they get.
Good.
So I could also say for U.S. Customers, so if you have an HSA or an FSA, like private insurance plan, health insurance plan, you can use that to pay for a device. Ours is registered, it's FDA cleared, and has all the associated registrations with it. So if that's one way to spend, like if you are fortunate enough to have that kind of account, you can also use that to pay for the device.
And that gives it more credibility, I think, also where you do have that classification, Class 2A.
Yeah, indeed.
Good. And Bjørn, I've kept you for a long time. Usually my half-hour show, I'd like your information, sorry, so I want to keep it a little bit longer. Anything I missed that you wanted me to cover or want people to know?
No, I think you touch on all the most important points, and it's like I think understanding the principle of where this energy comes from, the natural source of the sun in a concentrated form, which is what red light therapy is. If you combine near infrared and red light, that we created into a portable wearable form that makes it easy and like to sort of have that concentrated dose. I think for any of your listeners that want to actually dive a bit more into either the scientific research or all the potential applications that we haven't talked about, it would be great if you can also link in the show notes. Our website is recharge.health. We show a lot of scientific studies and a lot of background information for anyone who's curious to learn more. So
and I put all your links in the show notes to recharge.health, along with your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channels also. Question for me for two is, how long does it take to charge your FlexBeam, or how does that work with charging?
Yeah, so charging this, it's a charger that comes along with it. You just plug it in here when it's out of charge, typically 5 to 6 cycles. So like say you could do it for about an hour before it needs a recharge. So in a way, that's a good reminder to, like if you use it so much it's charged out, then you may have overused it in one session because you don't really need to use it that much. But it takes about an hour to charge.
Good. Yep. Anything else you want to talk about FlexBeam or infrared as a takeaway for the show, or anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think we covered the basis. And if I'd say one thing about the crooked spine on the spine and all of this, it's as you would surely know, the spine is the biggest energy pathway in the whole body. So there's also a lot of systemic effects. Like, of course, a lot of focus when we talk about this is applied to one spot and targeted local treatment. That is what it's designed for. But we see a lot of benefits and use cases back for the sort of the energy support principle that you give your body a dose of energy. It's important to realize that your body is a big circulatory energy system. So when you do expose along your spine, for example, the energy will travel where it's needed. And that's really at the base what this really is an energy boosting device, specifically for those frequencies that your body's natural healing abilities kind of respond to. Again, it's an amazing discovery, and I got on board with this because I had never heard about this before, and I was a little bit amazed that this is not available to people yet, because it's been known for decades, and it's only now that we're able to pack so much power into one device, make it wearable, make it easy, and so on. So we're working to create new devices in the future also that can be even like meet people where their consumer needs are, so to speak, or like what their expectations
reverse engineer. Yep.
Yeah. Indeed.
Good. Quick 5-second picture.
To come to every household soon.
Good.
Yeah.
Quick picture with the FlexBeam with you, and a quick smile too. Good, see some teeth. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's the show for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hang out for 1 second more. I'm going to end the show. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on